We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers, sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers, sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be just one in the number as we stand against tyranny. To me, young people come first. They come first. They have the courage where we fail. If I can just shine a light on as they carry us through the gale. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Come on, sing. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We cannot rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We cannot rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We cannot rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We cannot rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We will not rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We will not rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We will not rest. We who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. We will not rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until. Come on, sing now. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
I came to give you an address from the political prisoners held captive in the dungeons of the United States. They do not want me to give you this address because they do not want our South African brothers to know that there are black political prisoners here in the United States. Brother, comrade Nelson Mandela, on behalf of my brothers in prison, on behalf of the Puerto Rican nationalistas, on behalf of the Native American political prisoners, and on behalf of the white American political prisoners, I say to you, brother, we love you and we will not give up the fight. 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 Amendment! Amendment!
I seen Nelson Mandela walk out of prison, and I wanted to whisper in his ear that I knew down in the bottom of my soul how he must feel. He is a symbol of the triumph of the human spirit over tyranny. The human spirit is the essence of all just laws. And when the spirit and the heart is corrupt, then the laws and the implementation become corrupt. And the only way we can change the society and the laws that constrain us today and that oppress other people because of their sexual orientation or the color of their skin or the fact that they're male or the fact that they're female or the fact that they're Latino or the fact that they're homeless or the fact that they have no money, the only way we can change that is we have to take a position.
Assalamu alaikum and revolutionary greetings, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Aisha Mohammed, and I'm honored to be the co-host for our webinar tonight. Again, welcome to the Tribunal, International Tribunal 2021, Why Now and What to Do.
Walaikum salam, Aisha. My name is Matt Meyer. I'm the Secretary General of the International Peace Research Association and former National Chair of the War Resisters League and the Fellowship of Reconciliation, interfaith groups and peace and justice groups struggling for human rights in all places. We are excited to welcome everyone to this first public webinar, moving forward the work of the International Tribunal, taking place in late October of this year, 2021, to focus on the human rights abuses that have been dealt here within the empire, here within the US. And just by way of a very brief introduction before we have an extraordinary lineup of speakers tonight to introduce and explain different parts to this subject, it's just to say that we understand that we stand on the shoulders of giants. That clip from 1990, former Black Panther political prisoner Dhoruba bin-Wahad introducing to the crowd of Harlem Nelson Mandela just after he was released from prison, is a symbol of why and how we took on this name. Now, the Spirit of Mandela is a name that Brother Jalil, who will be with us in a minute, conceptualized while inside just some years ago. And of course, he's just been out some moments ago. But the fact of the matter is, Mandela is one of many symbols. And in the course of building for October's International Tribunal, we made a decision that we were not just going to focus on Nelson, but some of the other Mandelas, including Winnie, including Grassa, and also some of the Mandelas within the US context, like Fannie Lou Hamer, or Ella Baker, who wrote the words of that introductory song, or Rosa Parks, or other great heroes and sheroes of our struggle. In particular, we recognize that this is the 70th anniversary of when Paul Robeson, William Patterson, and others radicals charged the US with genocide and began to look at making that charge an international charge held in a field of international public opinion. We fast forward to Minister Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, and the creation of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, also bringing the charge of U.S. crimes and human rights abuses against African peoples in the Americas before the United Nations. We see some of the struggles in the late 70s and the tribunals that were brought for other abuses and other crimes. And Sister Nkechi will talk about some of that lineage and our plans for today, because she's been a central part of some of that work from an international legal as well as an organizational arena. And I'll just close the loop for myself by saying part of my space here is that myself, Dhoruba, and a number of us were central to the creation of the International Tribunal on Political Imprisonment in the U.S. in 1990, that Dr. Luis Nieves Falcón and others coordinated to make the issue of political prisoners more visible within the U.S. context. Face reality, we said, face reality. And we say again, the reality continues and in some ways have gotten even worse, because we see here the ongoing traumas, the ongoing genocides, the ongoing abuses that seem to catch up with us every time we turn on the news. So without further ado, that's a little historical context. I'm going to pass it back to my co-MC, Sister Aisha, and I'm going to introduce our first two speakers.
Thank you, Matt. The first speaker of the two will be Jalil Muntaqim. He is a former political prisoner, one of the co-founders of the National Jericho Movement, an activist and author. He's a former member of the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, and was incarcerated for almost 5 decades. In October of 2020, Jalil was released on parole. Let's welcome Jalil.
And I'll introduce the next speaker so that there can be no interruption between the two. Nkechi Taifa will be our second speaker, and Nkechi is going to serve, as I said earlier, Jalil conceptualized the idea of In the Spirit of Mandela, and Nkechi has agreed to be the chief prosecutor. It's always strange to talk about being prosecutors. We're so used to being the defense. But let's remember, this time in October, we're putting the U.S. government on trial, and Nkechi is the perfect chief prosecutor. Our dear sister has been a leading people's attorney for almost her whole adult life, building institutions and case law, which has helped free people and free our minds. She has served on countless leadership positions, including as senior fellow at the Center for Justice at Columbia University, as advocacy director for criminal justice for the Open Society Foundations, as the founding director of the award-winning Equal Justice Program at Howard University School of Law, the Legislative Council for the American Civil Liberties Union, the coordinator and trainer for the 1995 Million Man March Legal Observer Committee. Taifa has served as a prosecutor during the opening statement for both the 2007 International Tribunal on Hurricane Katrina and Rita and the 1997 International Tribunal for Justice for Mumia Abu Jamal. Nkechi is author of the recently published book, Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. And if I were to really read all of what Sister Nkechi has done, our whole time here, our 90 minutes, hour would be taken up. So I'll be quiet. And I don't see Jalil. Has he not been able to hop on yet?
He's having trouble connecting.
All right. So I think Sister Nkechi, I'm sorry. You can start us off and then we'll have Brother Jalil follow you. Dear sister, take it away.
All right. Thank you so very much, Matt Meyer. I appreciate it. And dequi, my sister, how are you? And Aisha and everyone. And I know I was surely looking forward to hearing Jalil Muntaqim come on first, but okay, I'll go on and try to fill those shoes and then he can go on and do some little cleanup, but behind me. But prepping for this session and prepping for what is going to be a phenomenal international tribunal in October is really a nostalgic throwback to history, to over 40 years ago when I was working very closely with Brother President Imari Abubakar Obadeli, the first popularly elected president of the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, and his crusade to as part of the New African Independence Movement to get our Black political prisoners and prisoners of war recognized, both internationally and domestically. And yes, international human rights always on the table for those who are seeking a Black nation, for those who are seeking land, for those who are seeking sovereignty, looking to international law as we are doing today. So, the issue of our political prisoners in the United States has never been mainstream. That's why we're here today. That's why we're going to have this International Tribunal coming up in October, because this issue has never been part of the public discourse. It's never been seriously considered, except by the diehard, which are the folk on the screen and the folk who are in the audience right there. Where are all the law review articles on political prisoners in the United States? Where are the PhD dissertations? Where are the mock trials in law schools using our political prisoners as case studies? Where are the law school clinics focused directly on our heroines and heroes, our freedom fighters? Where is the elementary school curriculum? That's what this tribunal must result in. Domestic and international recognition that are not only that there are and have been political prisoners in the United States, but that the struggles that they were convicted of are legitimate. I was honored, as Matt said, to serve as the prosecutor. And, it took me a while to get my brain wrapped around being a prosecutor. I mean, even the trial that was just going on last week and this week, I had to correct my brain and say, defense bad here, prosecutor good here. But I was honored to serve as a prosecutor, delivering the opening statement on both the People's Tribunal for Mumia Abu-Jamal in 1997, as well as the People's Tribunal on the Hurricanes Katrina and Vida in 2007. And in the Katrina Tribunal, as part of my conclusion, I said, esteemed jurists, you have before you an awesome responsibility. Just as in 1954, when Mamie Till Mobley demanded an open casket for the world to see the image of her 14-year-old son, Emmett, savagely mutilated and dumped in the Mississippi Tallahatchie River. I said that this tribunal, then the Hurricane Katrina, and as well as this one that we're going to embark on in October, will likewise present an open casket for the world to see and hear the testimonies of human rights abuses. Open it up. Maybe Till Mobley screamed. She said, let the people see what they did to my boy. Okay? And her decision is what forced the nation and the world to face in shock, horror, and disbelief the horror of racism. So this tribunal, again, will likewise open up the voluminous body of evidence that has occurred and is occurring for the world to see and hold those who are responsible accountable. I stated at that tribunal that Dr. Martin Luther King once said that the ultimate test of a man, of a person, is not where he stands in moments of comfort or in moments of convenience, but where he stands in moments of challenge and moments of controversy. Yes, I said. It may be challenging to some that we're using an international human rights frame through which to present domestic abuses. It may be controversial for some to hear mere whispers that crimes against humanity were perpetrated domestically or that the provisions of genocide could be applicable. But these are not comfortable or controversial or convenient times. Just as Mamie Till Mobley commanded, there is a time when we must open up the casket. There is a time when we must right the wrong. It is once again time for the world to see and to act. The time is now. Moments of national crisis also represent moments of opportunity. And just as I did in that Katrina tribunal in 2007, in October, again, we will likewise ask this new set of international jurors to listen to all of the evidence and to return a verdict for justice rooted in international human rights law. And 10 years earlier than that, in 1997, I served as an attorney in the innovative historic mock proceeding in Philadelphia entitled the People's International Tribunal investigating the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal. And this proceeding included a well-known and respected international panel of jurors, political leaders, labor and community activists, cultural figures, and others concerned with social justice. And I ended that statement with a plea that there be a thoughtful, independent, and impartial judicial investigation into the FBI's counterintelligence program, a thorough, independent, and impartial judicial investigation into the actions of any official entity that had any role in relation to the 1985 Move headquarters bombing, the removal from office of all officials responsible for the deprivation of Mumia Abu-Jamal's human rights, and a request to the United Nations to call for reports on the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal from U.S. Special Rapporteurs. And I recently did a presentation for a forum called Community Under Siege, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, on the issue of reparations as a down payment for political prisoners, you know. And, you know, most people don't realize that the Japanese American Redress Bill not only called for $20,000 to every Japanese American detention camp survivor, fund to be used to educate Americans about the sufferings of the Japanese Americans, a formal apology from the United States government. But most folks don't realize that that reparations settlement also included a pardon for all those who resisted detention camp internment. There is president, a pardon for those who resisted. They have done it before, they can do it again. A pardon. We have political prisoners still languishing in prison. I'm not even going to go through the list of names. We have political prisoners who are in exile, who cannot return here. We have people who serve time unjustly, okay, but still are on parole. Their sentences need to be commuted. They need to receive a pardon. And, you know, the COINTELPRO talked about to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize the activities of Black nationalists, you know, leaders and their spokespersons and their membership and their supporters. And the FBI talked about neutralization, which is a term of war. And you might ask, well, what is this war? Well, it's none other than the war of genocide that the United States has been waging against our people. And I'm just going to conclude with the definition of genocide, which most folks don't really realize. When we talk about genocide for the Jewish people, no issue, no eyebrows raised. We talk about genocide for the Native peoples, no issue, no eyebrows raised. But when we talk about genocide for Black folk, first of all, folks just think you're being rhetorical. No one takes it seriously. But genocide is principle not only of international law, but is in United States law as well. The international definition as adopted by the United States is, number one, killing members of a group. Number two, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of a group. Number three, deliberately inflicting upon the group conditions of life calculated to bring about their destruction in whole or in part. Number four, taking measures to prevent births within the group. Number five, transferring children from one group to another. And that definition goes on that says, genocide is not the only actionable act. Conspiracy to commit genocide. Direct and public incitement to commit genocide. Intent to commit genocide. And complicity in its commission, and it goes on. It says those who are guilty of genocide shall be punished, shall be, regardless of whether they are constitutionally protected rulers, public officials, or private citizens. And those are the things that we're going to be bringing up in the International Tribunal for political prisoners in October. We're going to be talking about crimes against humanity. We're going to be talking about genocide. We're going to be talking about remedies and reparation. We're going to be talking about all of these things, and we're going to be putting it in the proper framework that needs to be put in for not only recognition, but for action as well. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so I just want to, again, welcome everybody with a lot of revolutionary love and hope for the future, and especially with this tribunal being planned. I'm with the National Jericho Movement and also Oakland Jericho here in California. And I actually have Brother Jalil to thank for that. When I moved out to California from New York, he asked me to start a defense committee for him, which I did with the assistance of Baba Melvin Dixon, who is also a former Black Panther Party member. So thanks to Jalil, I learned so much and in the past 10 years and have really enjoyed contributing to the movement.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody who put this program together, this webinar. Unfortunately, for some reason, my mic or my camera will not work. And I'm watching the whole scene, but unfortunately, it's not working. At any rate, it's important for me to express my appreciation to everyone who's watching and understand the gravity of the situation which we are dealing with. Sister Taifa put up a presentation, and I hope everyone really heard that today, particularly with regards to the issues of the question of genocide. The question of genocide is a question of whether it is being done in whole or in part. In our situation, we can emphatically state that it's been done at least in part. Particularly when we look at the issues of the issues of state police terrorism. And death of many of our young people, and also the degree by which mass incarceration has prevent reproduction as an idea in terms of in part, whereby young people being sent to prison for exorbitant time and at the most period of where they can reproduce and being prevented to do so, and then released from prison as old men. Right, as was my situation, as my case. Right, going to prison at 19, prison, going on 69 years old, 69 years of age. And so what we find is the need for us to bring our issue, bring our case to the international community, to raise the question of if we are the spirit of the fight against imperialism, capitalist imperialism, white supremacy. The international community is the shaft of that spirit. If we are the vanguard in the movement against capitalist imperialism and white supremacy, the international community is right. About that. But the only way for them to have our back, we have to tell the international community what our struggle is inside. And that's a 3,000 to 2,000 miles border, what they call the United States of America. Right? We've been captured and engaged in the struggle since 1619. And now we are here today in 2021, and we still have to engage in the type of brutal oppression that we have suffered for the last 150 years. Right? 17 years ago, Paul Robeson and William Patterson raised the same question. We charge genocide. But what we're doing, we charge genocide. It's again. In 2018, I was locked up in a correctional facility in isolation. I was put in isolation for teaching a class in Attica. I was put in isolation for 4 months for teaching a Black history class that was approved, but they didn't like what I was teaching. And what happened was that during the course of my stay in isolation, I decided it's time for us to bring the international community back to the United States, particularly the international jurors back to the United States, so that we can raise the questions of genocide. So I wrote a proposal while I was in Southport Correctional Facility in isolation. And I sent it to our comrades in the streets, and they reviewed it, and we discussed it. Particularly those members of Jericho, of whom I am the co-founder of the national organization Jericho. That has been in existence for almost 21 years, fighting for the existence, fighting only for the existence and support of political prisoners in the United States. And therefore, Jericho read my proposal and decided that, yes, this is something we're going to do. We're going to put it together. We are now at that point. October 22 to October 22nd to 24th, we'll be raising our issue, our struggle to the international community. And it behooves every progressive individual in this country to join and support and endorse this campaign. Join and support this tribunal. And support, particularly support our Chief Prosecutor, Sister Nkechi Taifa, and our capacity to raise all the issues that we want to bring to the international community that confronts people of color in this country. These are our charges, it's our mission. And you, this community, just support us in every capacity that you possibly can. We're going to make this thing happen. It's going to be historic. We're going to make it historic. All right? This is the time for us to bring to the international community our struggle, our capacity to fight back. This is our goal. This is our objective. That's all I got to say. Thank you for listening to me, supporting this campaign, what we're trying to do, or what we're going to do. And I'm certain that with your support, we will be successful. We will become our own liberators.
Wow.
Yep.
I guess it's just part of the tech world's telling us that we've been standing on our heads all this time, struggling and working. So this is a little bit of a mental jujitsu to have our dear brother Lenny with us upside down. Let me give you a brief introduction and then take it away, because your words and your spirit are going to create the power, even if your image is looking a little upside down. We are so honored to have Lenny Foster of the Diné Nation with us here and as part of this process. Lenny Foster is the former director of the Navajo Nation Corrections Project. He's a spiritual advisor for more than 2,000 Native American inmates in 96 state and federal prisons throughout the Western U.S. Amongst those 2,000, Lenny Foster is a spiritual advisor to our dear and beloved Leonard Peltier, a founding member of the American Indian Movement and a continuing board member of the International Indian Treaty Council. Lenny Foster has provided groundbreaking testimony before the United Nations and many other entities on indigenous issues, on prisoner issues, and on the case of Leonard Peltier. A true elder and comrade and friend, Lenny Foster, we are so honored to have you with us.
Thank you. Yeah, now. I about Henson, Diqua, Sabe Haditsi, Shado, Nidigi, Kitiat, Doyat, Eto, Shahan, Kidini, Dolit. Kiani, Einstein, such honor, was a Chintuba head as a chip, and the one head as another. Over another, French, I wrote South, so, the other Aro is in Africa. Aro Bikota, Kunamis, Allah, Nasa, Ishka. Edna, the Hoto, Saint Tizzy, then Nanny Digon, and the Turka, A with our Wally, what's on the house, Tony, A with our about Tangish Baho, which a yes to I don't touch it, made all, I don't net or set short on so there's any, A with our Ishla, I don't day, and put the net now, that row, condemned row, what yeah, out in the house, Tony, so out up. Addition on the Shishla, about Henson, down Kidini. I apologize for the confusion here regarding the camera. For some reason, it's not working right. It has me upside down. I don't know if it's the laptop or the camera that's attached, but I wanted to just introduce myself and thank my brother Jalil and Matt and Ann for this invitation to be part of this important event scheduled for October 2022, I believe, the tribunal. So I introduced myself, which is very important because that's how we recognize one another and the spirits recognize us. I said I was a Townhouse clan born for Mountain Cove, and my maternal grandparents are River Edge, and my paternal grandparents are Nagami nomads. So that's how we, as Native Americans, always identify ourselves by our clans, so we know who we're related to and our relatives, and also it serves a purpose for not intermarrying with one another. And we as Native Americans have been here thousands and thousands of years in this part of the world, the Western Hemisphere, and we have engaged in one of the most intense struggle for survival. And you mentioned genocide. It's been an all-out war, physically, mentally, spiritually. And it's still going on today. The colonial governments, the colonizers, they call themselves Democrats and Republicans, and they are collaborating and engaging in this genocidal practices. And the brainwashing that has taken place that pits Indians against Indians, indigenous people against indigenous people, and people of color. So that's experience is what we bring to the table. And I was glad to see that those pictures. I myself have met on one occasion with Nelson Mandela in Durban, South Africa, back in 2000, and had the privilege of meeting him, shaking his hand, had some pictures taken with him. He understood the struggle of the indigenous people. And we talked about the imprisonment, the experience of imprisonment of indigenous people. And also I had the privilege of meeting the Dalai Lama at that time also in Durban, South Africa. And then also in that picture that you showed, I saw a picture of Rosa Parks. I met her in Phoenix, Arizona in 1992, and I received a Dr. Martin Luther King Civil Rights Award. And I was very impressed with the Black Panther Party when they had Elaine Brown, who was the leader at the time, because Huey Newton was in jail, and Bobby Seale, I think, was also in jail. Dave Hilliard was the only one that was out. So these gentlemen, these sisters, they were all there. And that's when the Soul on Ice was completely in force. And it inspired me, because a year later I joined the American Indian Movement in Denver, Colorado, under the late Vernon Balcourt. And I joined the American Indian Movement and engaged in some of the biggest campaigns in the Indian movement. Alcatraz, we took over Alcatraz Island. I was there. We took over the Bureau of Indian Affairs building in Washington, D.C. I was there. I participated in some of the biggest demonstrations up to that point in Gordon, Nebraska, the Raymond Yellow Thunder. And I engaged in a 71-day occupation of the Wounded Knee, South Dakota. And I survived 11 firefights. So that enhanced my awareness of survival and the struggle. And I feel very honored to be part of this and recognize my brothers and sisters as comrades in the struggle. And I want to thank Jalil for inviting me. And I shared with him when I visited with him in Sullivan Correctional Facility here 2 years ago and 3 years ago, when I came to New York to attend and speak at the United Nations Permanent Forum for Indigenous Peoples Issues. And I told him that I had an opportunity to do a sweat lodge ceremony with Cindy Ada, a Coley at USP Allenwood. And so those kinds of experiences we bring to the table, and I'm very privileged and honored to be part of your circle here. Eget aat is osaba stido lefnde anzar thabiya the American Indian Movement, the Board of Directors and stuff, International Indian Treaty Council, our big teaching and the Shanamishisha, although the United Nations Permanent Forum for Indigenous Peoples Issues, Aja in Straw, as a talk, Hanasti, the Shafat, Arofia, Mankidini, the Amato, So those are some things I just want to say at this time. I was given 5 minutes, so I just want to share that both in English, which is my second language, but I wanted to say also in the Navajo language. So you'll be getting accustomed to hearing one of the classical languages of North America, the Navajo Nation, the Navajo language. So it's my pleasure. I thank all of you again. I consider you my comrades in the struggle. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lenny. Such an honor having you here tonight. We truly appreciate you. We love you. You're an inspiration and a blessing to all, especially in our mission.
Thank you.
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum. And next we are going to have Pam Africa. Pam Africa is the coordinator of the International Concerned Family and Friends of Mumia Abu Jamal, and her relentless and determined fighting spirit is widely known and respected. Excuse me, it would have been a real honor to have her with us tonight. However, she sends her love and her regrets for not being able to attend tonight. She's currently working to get food to Mia's wife and prepare for tomorrow's mobilization in Philly. So we just want to tell folks and send our love to her and to Mumia and his wife and all the family and supporters. Send them our love and tell them we'll either be there in spirit or out in the streets with them. So all power to the people and free them all.
Free them all. Free Mumia. Free the land and on a move. Our next speaker is one of my dearest local figures with great inspiration. Sister dequi kioni-sadiki is the chair of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. She was the leader of the Sekou Odinga Defense Committee, which raised a successful campaign for the release of her husband. dequi is also a part of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. She's a radio producer of the weekly show Where We Live on WBAI Radio Pacifica. She's an educator with the New York City Department of Education, and along with me was co-editor of the book Look for Me in the Whirlwind, From the Panther 21 to 21st Century Revolutions. More than that, Sister dequi is one of the most effective coalition builders and organizers that most of us have ever met and ever seen. So it is a superb personal and political honor to welcome you, dear Sister dequi kioni-sadiki.
So thank you for organizing this. Thank you for including me to be here to speak on behalf of our brothers that are locked down. I think that I want to thank Nkechi because your presentation was just awesome. The energy, the determination, the need for people to recognize what time it is, that there's been a war waged on people of African descent since what I learned from watching that HBO film by Raoul Peck that is longer than 1619, that Africans were kidnapped in the 1500s. So, I mean, but the war has been raging for centuries, and it is so important for people to realize that. And in the context of that war, we have people who fought that we worked on behalf of in the 1960s and 70s, those members of the Black Panther Party and our white anti-imperialist allies, comrades, who've been in prison since the 1960s and 70s. And so it's so important for them to be a part of this tribunal. It's so important for our political prisoners to be a part of any platform and any work that people who consider themselves radicals, revolutionaries, progressives, beneficiaries of the struggles of the past, who recognize that they stand on the shoulders of people who fought, died, and gave their blood and sacrificed for the whatever limited freedom we believe that we have, then it's up to all of us to recognize the existence, to know that political prisoners exist in this country, and to include them in our work, include them in our activism. Those members of the Black Panther Party and those white anti-imperialist political prisoners, they are where they are because they took on the struggle that said not in my name and not on my watch. They said that there was something wrong with imperialism, capitalism, white supremacy, and colonialism, police terror, hunger, poverty, miseducation, lack of health care, piss poor housing, the prison system. They recognize all of that as an injustice against the people, and they put their lives and their bodies as well as their families on the line to correct those injustices. That is why we struggle for political prisoners, because we recognize those truths. We recognize those sacrifices. And so when we say we stand on the shoulders of, when we say we care about freedom, then we cannot talk about freedom and justice and an end to oppression without talking about those who were captured behind the wall. So including political prisoners in this tribunal for human rights, we recognize they have a human right to be free, especially in their elder years. They have a human right to resist, which is what our people have done ever since European colonizers and imperialists set foot in all the places that they did. And so we must fight for them, because for one thing we know for sure is in this time that we're living, in 2021, there are continuing to be more political prisoners, and they're going to be more, because they are passing legislation now that makes it a felony to protest, makes it a felony to do any kind of thing to Confederate white supremacist statue. They are criminalizing resistance in more ways than they did in previous times. So if we want to inspire people to be involved in the struggle for liberation, then we have to include our political prisoners. So we set the example that we include their freedom with our freedom, because they fought for our freedom and they sacrificed, and they are where they are because of that. So it's really important that every movement in the world, as Sekou always says, includes the freedom of political prisoners. And every issue that people are tackling, especially now with all the conversation about police murder of George Floyd and Ikea Bryant and Dante Wright, all this that was one of the points in Black Panther Party's 10-point platform and program, as well as all the other injustices that exist. So we must include them, because they included us without even foreseeing what is going on now. They understood that they had an obligation and a responsibility to those who were living and those who were not yet born.
Thank you very much, dequi. It was an honor to have you here speaking and inspiring everybody. And we truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. So now we have Jihad Abdulmumit. Please welcome the National Jericho Chairman, former Black Panther Party member, former Black Liberation Army, former political prisoner, community activist, motivational speaker, author, and playwright. And to those who know him and love him, so much more. Welcome, Jihad.
All right, thank you, Sister Aisha. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Start off in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and Ramadan Mubarak for everybody that's fasting the month of Ramadan. I just want to wrap up some things, really appreciating Brother Matt and Sister Aisha and Brother Les for tech behind the scenes there and bringing this together, and my dear sisters that spoke before me, and Brother Lenny. So this tribunal, sisters and brothers, I cannot begin to emphasize the importance of it at this particular point in time in our struggle. I'd like to, for those of us that have the information on the tribunal, if you do not have that information, that I would ask that you would email immediately Spirit of Mandela 1@gmail.com, or go to Spirit of Mandela website.org. But email, and so that you can be put on the listserv and get up with the information. This process is humongous. And first of all, the tribunal is in October, and all the time leading up into this, we're attempting to do mass organizing, which is what it's all about. When we say all power to the people, we're talking about breaking out of the silos of our organizational spheres, and I'm speaking candidly, and really try to build a movement leading up into the tribunal. The tribunal itself is just a point in time where we bring together the effects and the accomplishments of our organizing at that point, establish what the issues are to the public. Who are the juries in this particular tribunal? Even though we have 13 jurists to oversee the tribunal, but who are we really trying to reach? We're trying to reach the American people. This tribunal is an educational process that is profound. It is an organizing, the Sister Nkechi talks about, it's a tribunal of action. It's not just to have an event and then that's it. We're so tired and exasperated and exhausted that we go home and wait for the next event. But when you get the information about the tribunal, which I'm going to go over very, very briefly, it's the outcomes. Where are we going with this? Now, the core of this is the freedom of all political prisoners, but you will notice that we're talking about addressing and charging the United States civilly, federally, and violation of international law, for the assassination and killings of Black, brown, and indigenous people, the hyper-incarceration of Black and brown and indigenous people. And we know that deals with the whole 13th Amendment and enslavement of our people in these prisons, in these dungeons, in these concentration camps. It deals with addressing the campaigns for freedom of all political prisoners and freedom fighters who fought against all these issues that we're just talking about, that they're in jail for and sacrificed for. We're talking about charging the United States for environmental racism, which impacts Black, brown, and indigenous people the most. We're talking about charging the United States government for the disparities in racism and public health, which all the trauma from 400 years of slavery all the way up until now. Slavery continued up until now. So that's why we have all these issues. And then the underlining, as Nkechi presented, was the charge of genocide, and that is exactly what it is. Like with many other trials, we see that, when we get behind the scenes, sisters and brothers, it becomes very detailed, and the lawyers behind us and the lawyers behind Nkechi know that we're going to present all these issues. We're going to present impacted and expert witnesses to flesh out these issues. These issues will be codified and published. The results of this tribunal will be codified and published so it can be presented in college and school curriculums. It's going to provide a base, organizing base and launch pad for us to reach out into mainstream society. Yes, mainstream society. We are ineffective if we keep on talking to ourselves. If we keep talking to ourselves, the revolutionaries, the militants, then your next door neighbor is not on that page. I can guarantee you that. The store clerk is not on that page. I can guarantee you that. How do we reach these sisters and brothers? All across the United States, from Iowa to Idaho to Arizona to Colorado to Oregon, to wherever they are. So this tribunal attempts to reach out to form that national base, because the results of this tribunal, sisters and brothers, we're going to find them. We're going to nail them to the wall. They've already been nailed to the wall with the evidence, but we're going to bring it together in such a venue that the world can see. All right. And then after that, it is the call to action, because we would have organized so many hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm talking big numbers. And if you're not used to talking to these big numbers, then maybe you need to sit back and reevaluate your whole efforts in this whole thing called the movement for freedom and justice and equality and independence and self-determination. We're not talking about a few people. We're talking about a place called the United States of America, and how can we, after all the decades that we have dedicated our lives to in fighting for freedom, some of us going to prison for that, and some of us still in prison for that. How do we now take it to another level? How do we take our revolutionary acumen, our intelligence, our skills, our talents, and be able to organize a people in a place called the United States of America? How do we re-articulate what we're saying till we can reach the people? How can we reach your neighbor across the street who is not present in any of your venues? This is what this tribunal gives us the opportunity to do. Mass organization. So when we have the tribunal, everything is on spotlight. And then after it, Boom! We're ready to launch. We're ready to launch initiatives as powerful and profound as a People's Senate across the United States, representing all poor and oppressed people, coming out of our silos. How do I dare you to struggle? I dare you to struggle for that. I dare you to struggle beyond that. So now we have these intense initiatives behind all the political prisoners. Mumia this weekend, I'll be in Philly myself, inshallah, and Maroon Schultz and all the prisoners. We have to be focused on them. But next year, where will we be? We have to have short-term and long-term vision, sisters and brothers, so that we can change the climate. So that's not just the matter of getting political prisoners out of jail, which is fundamentally important and imperative in any liberation movement. But we also have to seize the time to get to our communities and change that fabric around. In this tribunal, the organizing leading up into it, and I'll close on this, gives us that opportunity. And we're building, as Nkechi and Sister Dequi just said, we're building on the shoulders of giants. We're recognizing everything that's come before us, and we're bringing it front and center with a massive organization and a stellar presentation. This is not going to be a tribunal of speeches of celebrity activists, none of that. We're having lawyers that we're going to have impacted witnesses. We're going to have expert witnesses. We're going to prove the case to the American people, to the apolitical people, to the liberals, to all of these people that we talk about that are in our communities, our grandmothers, our grandfathers. They're not revolutionary like us. This gives us the opportunity. So I challenge everybody, including myself, to become a part of this process. Everybody on this call, all 99 people that's on this call and who may listen to it later, have the opportunity to become present in this process, to offer your suggestions to this process. This is not a process of a few people, Colossus, done deal, is over with, social media event, next. Not that. This is boots on the ground, sisters and brothers, and we're inviting you to this process. All power to the people, all power to the October 2021 International Tribunal. And we pray to Allah's guidance and blessings upon each and every one of us. I pray for your families. I pray for all of us that are suffering in the hands of police violence and from the devastation of the COVID-19 and everything else that's been traumatizing us for the last 400 years. I salute you as I came. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
I guess it's appropriate, in addition to thanking and pausing for those profound words, to introduce the final words, which is going to be poetry from our dear sister, Dr. Aisha Mohammed.
Thank you, brother. I guess I have one more here, and it's called The Smallest Things. It is the smallest, simplest things that often move us, change us forever. A smile, a hug, a handwritten note, or the lack of. An unexpected tear, near-death vision, or death crumpled in your arms. The witnessing of birth, a child's infectious laughter, the skylark's medallic song, a child's eyes, a person in deep prayer, a hummingbird standing still in midair, wings beating 100 times a second. Are you there? A bomb exploding, the sound of the sirens, the flash of dark blue, gunshots with a name, the weeping sobs of a child, a page torn from a book, words written in fury and art composed without design. Intricate weavings of this journey are threaded together by random acts of awakening. And until everyone wakes up, we will continue to tell you of these things, both the beautiful and the dreadful, hoping you too will become awoke and help us. Yours truly, the children.
Wow. Thank you. My honor to close tonight's session as we come to the end of our 90 minutes with profound thanks first to my co-MC, the gifted and talented Aisha Mohammed, and also to provide a special thanks to Leslie and Teresa and all our dear comrades at Burning Books in Buffalo. For those who don't know, in addition to helping out with this tech, they've created a space in Buffalo that's always been a friend to the political prisoner, a friend to the person looking to get educated and re-educated from the miseducation of everything that this system and this dying empire has to offer. So we thank Burning Books. We thank Ann Lamb and many other people who've been dealing with behind the scenes stuff. And if you haven't been following, Ann's been posting in the chat the ways that people can endorse, can contribute to, can email, and can follow up on what we're talking about here tonight. All of you who registered and all of you who attended will be getting a little email from us with some information about how you can continue the work. Between now and October is a very limited time, and we have much work to be done. Profound thanks to the extraordinary speakers. A profound thanks to the extraordinary people gathered here. Just scrolling down the list of who's in attendance, we see former political prisoners. We see children of political prisoners. I have to give a shout out to my sister Teresa Schultz and thinking about her dad and the important events coming up this Sunday, focusing on Russell Maroon Schultz. And of course, all of those of us who, as Aisha said, will be out in Philly tomorrow for Mumia Abu Jamal. But of course, we say free them all. And I guess last but not least, I'll say, I think about the brothers and sisters inside. I was honored this week, not just to speak to some of the political prisoners who I've been close to over the decades, like my brother David Gilbert, but also heard just the other day from someone I'd never had contact with before, the younger brother Kevin Rashid Johnson, who sent his love and who wants to get on board, who's gotten on board with work to build for the tribunal. So as usual, our prisoners are in some ways a step ahead of us in building for October 2021. So we expect to see you, not just in the whirlwind, but in the upcoming meetings to build for the International Tribunal. And having said that, wish you all good night, safety, love, and solidarity.
All power to the people, free them all. Assalamu alaikum. Many blessings.